I've seen the literature you've been reading.
It's not just literature.
Oh, really?
German literature, Mrs. Fleet.
Literature, music, art.
I couldn't find any literature on the disease. Apparently there isn't any.
Man that wants to talk literature to you all day.
But his true enjoyment of literature.
Famous lines in German literature.
Well, he was a professor of literature.
And he drew from poets the literature of the age.
A writer of subversive literature.
You planned this.
I've seen the literature you've been reading.
You stooped to searching through my desk.
You don't know what I can do. It's not just literature.
Oh, really?
Quickly done.
You're interested in German literature, Mrs. Fleet.
It's all right. Here. What in? Literature, music, art. Maybe the opera. I've not made up my mind yet.
Are there any chemicals, medicines or anything?
I couldn't find any literature on the disease. Apparently there isn't any. So, without any specific drug, I'm afraid there isn't much I can do to...
Ring up. Tell them you've met a fascinating man that wants to talk literature to you all day.
I am sorry, I cannot.
Oh, look, we've...
My father reads many books from the outside world, but his true enjoyment of literature, it is of Wild Bill and Callan.
Sweet sorrow.
What is that?
One of the most famous lines in German literature.
Which obviously didn't please my father.
Well, why not?
Well, he was a professor of literature at the university.
Really? Is he...
To make a company of players from Her Majesty. And he drew from poets the literature of the age. We must show them that we are men of parts.
There is also a certain man, a writer of subversive literature, who has been howling for your blood. He's been...
Yes.
There's really very little literature on this kind of research. There's some good people in the field, Tart, Ornstein, Dyke.
Research physicist on a federal grant at Harvard, as a Finnish novelist who won the Nobel Prize for Literature, as a deposed Argentinian president.
Where's the literature? You know, the test results. I go back on your word.
If they go back on theirs, there's a lot of hateful literature coming out of there. And it is not only against the Jews. Now there's...
You see, in the United States, I'm considered controversial. But in Paris, you know, where they have an ear for literature, they were quick to recognize the genius of...
Our roads and our ships connect every corner of the earth. Roman law, architecture, literature are the glory of the human race.
I believe in the future of my people.
As recipient of the Nobel Prize in Literature, the work of literature in which he was awarded the Nobel Prize is his widely read essay, Why I Am Not.
This concludes our tour of the Jefferson Institute. Before you go, we have some literature we'd like you to take with you. It explains some of the background in detail.
But I have had to stop her. Nowadays, they are the only form of literature that keeps me awake. And I need what I defiantly continue.
Eli was an assistant professor of English literature at Brooks College. The recent publication of his second novel.
The nonsense about the beast. It's fantasy literature, nothing more. You really don't believe in...
I'm not quite a novelist, but as we all know, journalism is literature in a hurry.
Establishment for a certain section of books, which contain particular literature that he deems unreadable.
Alexander, well, he's a Venice Beach landmark. He's probably the biggest distributor and writer of white power literature and videos in LA County. He promotes white power bands.
$50,000 worth of comic books. Oh, excuse me. Raymond returns said literature unharmed, does a year's solid inside. Ooh. Comes out of prison with a week.
Chicago, Rome. Look at all this literature.
Rome.
Yeah.
This next award is for the member who has advanced the literature of motion pictures. Occasionally, there appears among us a person...
Guerrilla lore is his hobby. He's a teacher of medieval literature, the one the students hope they don't get.
A man capable of love.
Literature
Exactly. Don't go overboard, Virgil. She could have had her.
This is what is known in literature as the pregnant pause.
Louis John's English literature.
The building itself has a history of psychic turbulence.
Right, good idea. I could look for the name Zool in the usual literature.
Spate's catalog.
Tobin's Spirit Guide.
Yeah.
It's not an issue. If it's not an issue, why do you put out literature that hammers it home? Why do you play on this myth and fear?
Voranzutreiben. Erziehung, Theater, Kino, Literatur, die Presse. Das sind die geistigen Stützpfeiler.
Not essential. I teach history and literature. Since when it's not essential?
Or would I come back as a moose or an aardvark or something?
Take our literature, read it over, and think about it.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Hare Krishna.
Literature, when I was at the high school level, so literature, art, philosophy, history, very little physics and mathematics.
But it doesn't go to school in the States.
No, Cambridge. Majoring in French literature. I wasn't aware there was such a thing.
And they have Facebook at Cambridge.
And apparently Oxford and the London School of...
And until I make up my mind, you should find ample diversion. Here you have literature, art treasures, my collections.